Please help me welcome Rosalia Torres-Weiner.
And the camera museum.
I think we want to start by thanking you all and thanking the Camera Museum for giving us this opportunity tonight. It's a pleasure to speak to you all.
And to bring us all together, like you said, Encuentros. We're here with my fellow artists at Encuentros.
All right. Well, we'll start off by talking a little bit about the preparation you've done for this exhibition. It's been a big focus for you this year. How are you feeling about it?
And he knows that. And if I tell you do not touch the art, it's because I really literally mean it, because it's probably still wet. Yeah, I made it. I made it like everyone else, you know. We were invited to show our work, and we're here. It was challenging, but we made it. We're here.
Excellent. I would like to explore a little bit about your process, in particular, the process of the Dreamer series. I'd like to know a little bit about how you find the subjects and how you create their portraits.
Yeah, that's a really tough question, because just see me as a reporter with a brush. I am going after those stories, those powerful stories, inspiring stories. And I find my subjects, that 3 of them are here, and flew from LA, from DC, and from Denver, Colorado. And I'm honored. They're my heroes. So, yeah, thank you. It's just a reporter, you know. I listen to podcasts, I listen to stories, I watch, you know, TV, and then when I find this a story, I'm after them. And I use all the platforms like social media, like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. And then my subject line, it says, please say yes. I want your story, please, please, you know. But the most important thing about them is trusting me with their story. And I'm like, they don't know me. They don't know who I am. They don't know my project. But in that email, I try to include who I am, what the project is about, and how it works. And I send them questions to them, 10 questions, same questions. And one of the questions is like, do you feel American? And only one dreamer has said, no, I don't. But she has a good reason. She really has a good reason. And but most of them answer the same questions. And based on their answers and their stories, I paint their portraits. And sometimes I listen to their voice memos, I don't know, 10 times. And sometimes their stories is really hard for me to create the portrait, and then I put it aside, and then I work on another dreamer. But for me, it's very important to use their stories and tell their stories through my art.
That is really powerful. I'd like to know what you would like people, the people here, the people who see this exhibit, to take away from your Dreamer series.
Well, that is, you know, that's a good question, because I want you to feel free to download this app that is called the Rekalaka AR, and to listen to their voices, and to listen to, and to learn like how they're stuck, because we have, as we know, this broken immigration system, and they need a path to citizenship. They're contributing like 200%, just like we are, you know, to this country, to economy. They're making a difference. We want to help them. We want to, when we vote, we want to say, think about the dreamers. They're real people. These are kids who are not dreamers, they're doers. And they're making a difference. And you learn about them.
You've opened the door on augmented reality. I'd like to talk a little bit about why you wanted to put augmented reality in your work, in particular with the Dreamers. I know you talk about hearing their stories, but I know you do other things in augmented reality too. So why was that important to you?
Well, I always say that I live in the interaction of technology and art with this guy. And I know what technology is doing, and I know where art and technology goes hand in hand. And for me, it was a way to tell their stories by them. I could just paint them and they said, this is Gloria, this is Luis, and this is their story. But you can hear their stories in their own voices. You can hear them and know that they're real people. And I think where technology is doing is pushing us in different directions, directions of our art. Also, our technology is helping us just show our art how it is and how it's transformed. And I just think that I'm so happy that I'm in that path of technology and art. With my NFTs, and I was just like, all right, so it didn't do anything to me. But telling the stories of my dreamers and listening to their voices, that's what technology makes me happy.
You often hide messages in your art and in your work. Will you reveal to us tonight here one tiny little Easter egg that maybe is hiding in plain sight in one of these pieces?
Yeah, I do hide a lot of how you call it, Easter eggs. I do believe that you guys have to do your homework. People always ask me, why do you represent this? What does this mean? What does that mean? And I'm like, all right, this means this. But that's what I do. I leave little things for you to find out, for you to do your homework, like you.
So we're not going to get it.
No, the mural. So you asked me if I was still working on the mural because the walls, I'm going to that, maybe I'm getting ahead of my...
No, you're good.
Yeah. So if you see on the mural, I left the walls blank because we're not there. The Latino representation is not there yet. We're just dreaming. So that is blank because one day we'll get there. So there's your answer. Why I didn't paint the wall.
I thought so. I felt bad yesterday.
You brought up the mural, and we do have a beautiful mural in the gallery here that you finished this last weekend. And so why don't we talk a little bit more about that? It's called "The Future of Latinx Representation is Now." What about the design? What about the mural would you like to share?
Well, when Bob asked me, I don't know where Bob is, but he asked me, the curator, he said, you can pick anything that you want, Rosalia, open theme. And for me, it was just I really gave it a lot of thought. I was like, what can I paint? What can I paint? And working very closely with my Latino community, and I found, work with children orphaned by deportation. I learned about the dreamers. I learned about the challenges and achievements. And I thought to myself, because one of my project initiatives was working with children orphaned by deportations. And when I asked them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And all these children, they said, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be an immigration lawyer. I want to be a judge. I want to be the president. I want to change the law. So for me, it was no brainer to represent these generations in the future. And what I represent that is always, paint women as representing our Latino community. And from these women, different women, and I paint you, Isabella, there, I paint different women there, is the hummingbirds, and they represent the millennials, spreading their wings, but not just their wings, but wisdom. And they, using a little magical realism, they turn into fish. And those fish carrying a little bit of the technology and becoming the generation C, who are native to technology. And then the little fish with technology wearing the Oculus turn into the generation Alpha, who is the wolves. And when I thought about, like, we're underrepresented in politics, science, arts, and all the areas. And how are we going to become to there as wolves, louder and stronger? That's our kids of our kids. And if you see on my paintings, there's elements of clocks, like Gloria. Gloria is my undocumented PhD, who is helping other undocumented dreamers get into an institution like Harvard or other higher institutions. And those little clocks are losing their pedals. And that's how I see, us, just tick, tick, tack, tick, tack. It's about time when my kids your kids and your kids are going to be in charge. And this is not going to happen in the future. This is what I call myself artist, because I'm documenting American history. I want people to go in the future and say, why did we put kids in cages? Why did we put, separated families? This happened before with our brothers and sisters in the African American community. We have to learn from history. And this is what I'm doing, my art, documenting American history.
Why is public art such a big part of your artistic practice?
Because that's an easy question. Because I always say that art is not only museums. And I'm coming from Mexico City, like a city of murals, where we have free access to murals, public art. And I can tell you a quick story about how when two lawyers commissioned me to paint a mural in their, to paint their home during COVID. And they said, paint flowers, Rosalia. This is COVID. We want people to feel happy. And I'm like, all right, it's just a job for me. I was like, all right, let's paint flowers on the hall of your house, the front of your house. But while I was there, I was painting this mural, and this group of Latino landscaping people came, and they didn't see me that I was in the back painting, on a ladder, and they were taking selfies themselves. And then I saw them, I'm like, this is Mexican art, this is Mexico. And what they told me, that's, this is what makes me paint public art. Because they say, Rosalia, they say, Señora, when we come here, this is a beautiful neighborhood in Charlotte, beautiful, historic neighborhood. And they said, Señora, when we come here, we cut the grass and we go home. Now we cut the grass, we see art, and we go home. That's why I believe in public art.
That's a great story. Tell us more about how your Mexican heritage influences your artistic process and really the content in your work.
I think I'm going back to the same one, that I came from the city of muralists, and I know some of my fellow artists are here who also believe in the history of art. And I remember one of my paintings that is at the Smithsonian private collection. I was seeing deportations happening in Charlotte, and I asked myself, if Diego Rivera was here, he would be documenting the same thing, deportations. And I did it. And I took one of his paintings and borrowed one of his paintings and changed the horses for ICE officers, people deported, the woman being arrested. And I painted that. This is why they bought that painting, because as you can see, my art is very colorful, and that art is only blue and some gray tones, because I'm representing ice, cold water frozen. And that was my only blue painting that I did.
And as we're cycling through, by the way, a lot of these stories, you'll start to see some of the works that I hear, so keep an eye out for that. I think the ice painting is really good. Any specific challenges that you faced as a female artist, particularly in the context of either Mexican or American culture?
Yeah, I mean, I think because of, a lot of women here related to me, not just an artist, but also in other areas, we always have a challenge. And I had the challenge of people not taking me serious as a woman artist, people telling me you're not going to make it, people telling me go to Arizona because your art is very colorful, blah, 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 blah. But I'm here. Now look at
How do you approach the balance between preserving your artistic vision and creating artwork that resonates with a wide audience?
That is easy too, because I'm not painting, my paintings are not going to match your sofa for sure. My paintings are going to tell the true story and make you feel uncomfortable. That's what my art is, to start a dialogue and to tell our stories of Latinx. So yeah, no, there's no balance here. I'm painting for my heroes, for my community. And when they invite me to places like this, Cameron Museum, it's not Rosalia, it's my Latino community, my dreamers, my heroes.
Can you share with us a particularly meaningful or memorable interaction that you've had with someone who experienced your art?
Like, for example, the kid. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember because I have an art truck and I bring it to underserved areas in Charlotte. And I bring with me, sometimes I bring other artists, other organizations. Like I brought that day Discovery Place. If you're familiar with the institution in Charlotte, I brought them to this neighborhood, and this 8-year-old kid came to me and he said, we created art, Discovery Place, brought other activities. And this 8-year-old kid came to me, he said, Miss Rosalia, today is the best day of my life. 8-year-old Latino kid. And I asked him, and I said, why is the best day of your life? And he said, because you brought art, because you brought all these people to us. It's like a carnival. These are kids that otherwise could not afford to come to the Discovery Place. But because, the Discovery Place said, yeah, Rosalia, we'll come with you with your truck, we make this possible. So that was good. That was my 8-year-old employee.
Any upcoming projects or collaborations that you're excited about and want to tell us about?
Well, I will continue to build my body of works with my dreamers. They're my heroes. They're making a difference. I would not be here if it was not for their stories. And I also want to learn more about technology. This guy doesn't do things for me. He tells me, here's the catalog, here is this conference, go learn it. So that's what I'm going to do.
What advice do you have for people like me, perhaps, who want to be more creative, who want to bring more creativity into their life? You have a reputation for being very creative. What advice do you have?
Just do it. I get to ask that question because they think that I'm really super creative, but I cannot teach you how to be super creative, creative. Just start doing things that they're out of your box, you know? You know, just like, yeah, just do it. Just, yeah. I don't know how to answer, but just do it. There's nobody who can teach you how to be creative. Just do it, and experiment. Yeah. And be consistent, work hard, take a risk. That's, you know, what I would do.
I want to acknowledge that you have 3 of the Dreamer subjects in the audience tonight, and I'd like to invite them onto the stage because we want to hear a little bit about their story. So, Gloria and Luciano could come up. Please sign that.
Be my heroes.
Okay. Well, I think we'll start with Gloria. And Gloria, if you can just maybe introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I'm interested to understand why it was important for you to be a part of this project and what you'd like people to take away from this exhibition.
Sure. My name is Gloria Montiel. I was born in a small town called Coacoyula de Álvarez Guerrero. When I left, we didn't even have paved streets, and people used donkeys to kind of get around. I came to the United States when I was 8 years old. Lived all my life in Santa Ana, California, and from there I was the first undocumented student and first Latinx student from my high school to be admitted to Harvard on a full ride. My master's also at Harvard and eventually my PhD at the Claremont Graduate University. Right now, I'm Associate Vice President of Grants and Community Health Research for a large federally qualified health center in Los Angeles. I'm a part owner of an IT support firm. I teach at the Claremont Graduate University, but my most prideful work is working with youth and mentoring youth. If you hear my story, you'll learn that I've done a lot of things first by virtue of being a millennial in this time when the immigrant rights movement was born. And so I've had to knock on a lot of doors that were closed. And oftentimes was told no several times. And so for me, part of being a part of this project was to also share that despite those no's, we've opened doors. And often the narrative is, there's these dreamers that are superheroes, or they're helpless people who need saving. And part of your work, Rosalia, that the portraits are also lively, right? And that is a story that we never hear of people who live day to day, who are part of our community, who have taken roots in our community, have changed them, not by our contributions to the economy or education, but by just existing in our communities. And so when I took a look at the work that you've done, I knew that it wasn't going to be a story told from an outsider's perspective, but it was really going to give me an opportunity to share my story, and you were going to uplift those words. And so that's why I took part in the project as well. You'll see the final product. But as she was painting in stages, there was a moment when she painted like a chain of young people around there. So I love that because it's not just the final product. She really took to heart everything that I said in the story, and it's captured, even though the final product may be different, the process really incorporated my story. And so I really appreciated that about your process, Rosalia.
Thank you. Thank you, Gordon. Luis?
Yeah, I have to follow that. But I'll do my best. It's an honor to be here. It really is. My name is Luis Antesana. A little bit about me. I wear a lot of hats, but I like to say that I'm an indigenous descendant. I'm an undocumented entrepreneur from Bolivia. undocumented entrepreneur, and at heart, I'm an educator. I was born in Cochabamba, Bolivia, came to the US at the age of 7. I grew up in the city of LA, a dog-eat-dog world, neighborhood historically, low income, very violent, and because of that, I kept my head in sports and in the books. And because of that, I realized that I was undocumented until my senior year in high school. I was very fortunate, however, to get a private full-ride scholarship and to go to college. And then while I was in college, DACA came out, which was the work permit to give me the ability to put my education to work. And so as soon as I graduated college, I like to say that I was adopted by Colorado professionally. It's where I started my career as a teacher. Did that for 6 years. After 6 years, I realized that I wanted to focus specifically on helping our undocumented families directly. And at the time, I saw no such system that helped our undocumented families directly. And so I founded a nonprofit, and that's my biggest hat right now, is that I'm founder and CEO of Juntos Community. Juntos means together in English. What we do is we're a tech nonprofit. We help DACA recipients learn how to renew their work permits so they can continue working, helping themselves, help their families, and more importantly, become self-advocates and self-sufficient. And so today I'm a job creator. We've created jobs for U.S. citizens, for DACA recipients. We invest in the economy, we stimulate the economy, we pay our taxes. And it's crazy for me to be in that position. But that's what we're doing now. And so something that I would love for everybody here to take from every painting, but definitely from mine, is this. It's that we are you and you are us. If I can. And you are me. And I'll share a quick story to elaborate what I really mean by that. What I mean is that a quick anecdote. When I was a senior, and another kind of like time, when I was a senior in high school, I had tried so hard to be good in school, to learn the language, to do this. I remember walking back from football practice one Saturday morning at noon, and I was walking by a bus stop, and this gentleman who, same height as my father, might as well look like my father, could have been my father. He walked up to me and he said in Spanish, ¿Sabes si este bus me lleva a este lugar? He asked me for directions. This was the right bus to take. And he asked me in Spanish, and at that point, I realized that I understood what he had told me, but I realized that I could no longer respond in Spanish. Right? I share this story because this was an accident, right? An accident of me. I wanted to help, but I couldn't help, right? Could have been my father. I share this with you because right now across the U.S. and Florida, the border, I think that tough lesson is happening right now where we're shunning undocumented families across states, specifically Florida. You may have heard about Florida, and where they're essentially kind of one of the most anti-immigrant bills that's been passed. Their families are leaving the states, and it's affecting industries, construction, hospitality, farming, terribly, and it's putting people in so much fear. And I think that's what's happened. It's humble, hardworking people who are asking for help, maybe for direction. And where I was, by my own kind of doing, just accidentally couldn't help. Now the states are intentionally, explicitly turning their backs on people who want their help. And I think this is also happening at the border. And by doing so, we're essentially telling these families that we don't want them here, and that we would actually want for their bodies to deteriorate instead, or to leave, to not be here, doing the complete opposite. I think that's the wrong way about to do it. I think we're better than that. I think there's a lot of hope despite all these terrible things happening. And I think you'll see that in the amazing exhibition we have here, through the portraits and also through the augmented reality, that in fact, we are you and you are us.
I was in the base are struck by their answers, but I have a question. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
We would like to know why it was important for you to be a part of this project, to be here tonight, and what you'd like everyone to take away from this exhibition.
Cool. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Lena Cisneros, and I just want to thank you for spending your Thursday evening. It's such a beautiful day, so thank you for spending your time with us here tonight. A little bit about me. I was born in El Salvador, which is in Central America. And the day after my 7th birthday, I actually walked to the United States border. So I spent about 5 days and 4 nights in the Arizona desert, swam the Rio Grande, came here to the United States, landed in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is really, truly where home is. I mean, I live in DC now, but home is where the heart is, and this is definitely the state where my heart is at. Fast forward, so I taught myself the English language because my parents couldn't speak it. My father only went to 3rd grade before he had to help out at the farm, and my mother only went to 5th grade before she had to help out at the farm. Anyway, fast forward to high school, I graduated with a 4.8 GPA, top 10% of my class, but because of my documentation status and my lack of knowledge, I only applied to public institutions that never gave me a full ride, so college was incredibly expensive for me. So, you know, I hope that everyone here is a fan of Krispy Kreme. So I always had this notion that education was the key to poverty, and no one was going to take that away from me. So I would spend my mornings from about 3 a.m. to 10 a.m. making fresh donuts at Krispy Kreme, which eventually paid my way through community college. I eventually ended up receiving a full-ride scholarship to any private institution of my choice, which is how I landed at Emory University, where I also got a National Merit Scholarship on top of that. So I technically got paid to go to college, which that in itself is the American dream if you ask me. And fast forward about 17, 18 years later, I now work at the largest professional census firm in the world. It's this tiny company called Deloitte Consulting. And I'm very happy. And so one of the things that I think is super important to know is that I heard the words magic realism come out of your mouth today, Rosalia. I think it's incredible that the magic is not just here in your heart, but it's also in this room, because there are people in this room that believe in you and are here to see and hear your stories, and they don't know who you are, but yet they're willing to accept that we are part of bits and pieces that make up the mosaic that is the United States of America. And I mean, that in itself is where the magic lies. And so, you know, this morning I was down with a client in Houston, but I knew I had to be here because I'd never heard the word artivism before, but it's happening, and it's happening now, and it's history, and I think it's very cool that we are a part of it just as much as you are a part of this. So, thank you.
Such a luxury of being with us tonight. I think we have a little bit of time if we've got an audience question or two. And if you can just project so we can.
Okay, thank you, Rosalia, for saying that dreamers are doers, because that is true. And it's important to change that narrative, because we talk about the dream, but the dream is very metaphorical. It's not really, sometimes our dreams never happen, but be a doer, something that do things is great. That is our contribution. And you said at the beginning of the talk that you asked them how they feel to be in America. So I want to ask you that question to you.
Do I feel American? No. Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, no. Yeah.
So can I do a follow-up on that? So if you don't feel so you don't feel American, but I was looking at the labels in your work, and you are listed as an American or in Mexico. So yeah, you don't think it's like a contradiction between the description of you and how you feel.
Yeah, according to America, I'm a Mexican American, and it's cool with that. Do I feel American? No, I don't. Because of the color of my skin, my accent, and still, people ask me if I speak English. Police, when they pull me over, they go, "Are you a citizen?" So when you are questioned, you're questioned like that, it doesn't make me feel American, unfortunately. But, like with these changes and the demographic, changes that are happening, maybe one day I will feel American. Maybe, like, welcome to America, But this doesn't happen just in America. It also happened in Mexico. When I go back to Mexico and they hear this little accent and they go, "Oh, you're not from here." So we're in the middle. We're in the middle. But I'm happy to be Mexican American. I'm happy to be Mexican when I go to Mexico.
I grew up in a time where Diego Rivera was rejected by Roosevelt, by Rockefeller, and was not enamored or embraced by the American culture. So when you talk about that, I wonder how much has changed, how much has evolved from back then to now, and do you feel the same persecution as Diego felt?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. When I started when I started my art on immigration, and when I started painting scenes of deportations in Charlotte, I do, yeah. But I have to keep going like he did, and that's my job, and that's what it makes me happy. And I do have my side business of murals, what brings me my income, but this is what I believe, to document American history, and this is what these kids are.
It takes a lot of courage, and I applaud you.
But with that, that's what I invited them to be here with me. It's like, make me stronger.
I have a quick one. What gives you, and this is for the dreamers, what gives you the strength to be authentic in yourself and tell your story publicly? Because so many of the dreamers don't want to share that because they don't feel safe for other reasons. But what gives you that strength to do that?
That's a great question, and I'm going to let them answer, because when I approach and I find dreamers, they say no to me, and it's okay. I respect that. But these are like in Mexico, we have a saying that they're like chingones. You want to answer
that, actually?
Yeah.
So I am in the financial services industry within Deloitte Consulting, and I love being in that space because for a very long time, not only was I the only person of color, but I was also the only woman on the team, and I was also the youngest, right? And I love being in otherwise unconventional spaces where we're not traditionally welcomed, or people like me are not traditionally seen. And then I see the future generation and I say, there was not a seat at the table prior to me joining this firm, but there is now. And I will pull up my plastic chair and I will sit next to the CEOs and C-suite executives, because I want to show everyone else that you can look like me, and you can also have that position of power, right? And so it's, what are you doing if not speaking your truth, right? So I'm not going to come up and really dive into this imposter syndrome that everyone experiences in corporate America, right? I recognize that my story and my background is so unique. And that is why not am I just able to treat my clients in a way that I'm able to give you a different lens, one, but I'm also able to speak my truth, and I hope that it allows other people to speak it as well, right? So for example, at Emory University, I was talking to a really good friend about my story, and he said, why don't you just tell it to the world, right? And I thought, okay, and he's like, I'll have someone interview you, and we'll publish your story on the Emory Wheel, which is an Emory newspaper. So I go ahead, I do this Q&A, it comes out, And then out of nowhere, someone at Emory reached out and said, why did you do this? You just put your entire family in jeopardy. And we have this specific club called Undocumented Students of America, but it's not public because we don't feel safe to do that. And I thought, how do you expect to get the allies and the support that you need in order for you to thrive at a university like Emory University, if you are not vocal about what it is that you want, if you don't fight for what it is that you think is right, and if you're hiding and hiding and hiding, so if you're constantly hiding, where has that gone? Nowhere, right? So let's stop trying to create these safe spaces, but rather start opening up ourselves and our stories to show the world that sí se puede, yes we can, but you can't possibly know that if we're not vocal about it, right? So the fear comes in, I may be rejected, but the strength is knowing that that is okay if you do, because there's people like all of you who are in your evening with us tonight saying, I believe in you just as much as you believe in yourself. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
I'll be brief. I think hopefully this isn't a cliche. It might be to some folks, but I think it might be new to some others. So I'll say it anyway. The cliche is that a closed mouth doesn't get fed. I think that's what she was saying. Una boca cerrada no come. Right? And I think for me, just by my own example, call me an optimist. I have lots of hope despite terrible circumstances my life has been under. But I really do believe that the grand majority of people want to help. They want to help. I think that's innate in our spirit. But they cannot help if they don't know where help is needed. And so from high school, as soon as I found out I was undocumented, I shared my story to figure out if people can help me, right? And then I'm an entrepreneur now, and I have a budget, and I look at numbers, but my upbringing is in organizing. I remember, when you're organizing, you gotta get loud. You gotta get real loud, and that's what I was doing with my story, to be able to get the support and help I needed. And now, with my organization, I try to scream the loudest to support my community. And so I would say that piece for sure is a closed mouth doesn't get fed.
Yeah, for me, likewise, it's the next generation. When I wanted to apply to Harvard, one of my classmates said, "Don't you know Mexican girls don't go to Harvard?" She didn't do it to be mean. She did it because she was also Latina, and we had never known a Latina who went to Harvard. And so we had a perception of what our limitations were, and I don't want that to happen to anybody else. And that's why I've shared my story in all the news channels. When I had time, I was very active also on social media. And people have found me, young people from throughout the country, people that I've since mentored and become good friends, and that makes me accessible. And then the other piece too is that with positions of power, someone is more likely to listen to someone with a PhD that has double Harvard degrees than they are with my parents, who have woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning every day. I had the great opportunity last year, to attend the White House as an expert around COVID-19. I've secured over $40 million in grants for COVID-19 response and recovery in LA and Orange County. And so when the door opens for me, like Rosalia mentioned too, it's not just me stepping in, it's me identifying myself as undocumented so people know that we are real people. We're making moves. We're not just, waiting for people to save us, that we're leading the way in so many different fields. And so for me, that's also the motivation to let folks know that we exist and we're not going anywhere.
Yes.
When you were saying about not feeling American, but you've showed with your work and with your Dreamer series that we don't have to be an American to love this country and to know that we can contribute and at the same time then create or open doors for others, and being critical also, and knowing that we can make this better for everybody. So my wish is that there be more lugares de encuentros, where we can tell our stories and where we can share what we're capable of doing.
Oh, I feel American now. I feel American with your words. I mean, now you can see why, I do the work that I do as an archivist. I have these great stories to tell. And then, there's more dreamers over there. There's a girl from El Salvador, Jocelyn, who was told as a little kid that was not going to be able to walk, and now she's doing marathons here in Charlotte. There is Chef Byron, who also, as a little kid, needed he was hungry and he needed a work where he knew that if he was going to start working in the food industry, he was going to get fed. And now he's like this famous chef. And you are with Chef Byron in Denver. And there is other dreamers that have like amazing stories. So I invite you to learn more about them and their personal stories and journeys in this country and how they're helping us and make this America stronger. Do you guys have any questions? I'm sorry.
Bueno, primeramente, decirle que tienen unas obras maravillosas, muy prolijas, las felicito, las estoy conociendo hoy. Y también quisiera preguntarles si alguna vez han planteado, sin desviarse del tema, algún otro tema que le llegue al corazón, que pueda explorarlo en el futuro.
Yeah, so she praises Rosalia for her wonderful work, and the main question is whether or not there is another theme that Rosalia wants to explore that really touches her soul and wants to dedicate some time to in the future.
Yeah, I guess the same thing that I'm doing, this is very fulfilling for me. And I think, people like you need to know their stories and how they're making a difference. I'm happy with that. I can die mañana, not mañana, but not too early because I have more dreamers to paint. But no, I'm doing this. This is my final destination. Then.
Any other questions for me? If not, then I've got one final question for you. You've done a lot of these artist talks in your career. Why have you waited this long to have me interview you?
Because you were afraid. No.
Follow-up question. Was I the best?
Yes.